Let's start off next in Minnesota. We've got Curt Woolfolk. Oh boy, that's easy for me to say. Woolfolk on the line from the Mosaic Company. How you doing, Curt?
Good, Darren. No, you said it. You said it great.
Close enough.
Close enough. Right.
Hey, we're talking about fertility in wheat, and just kind of curious, what are you seeing from farmers in wheat? Are you seeing them step up their fertility plans, and what types of things are you recommending?
Yeah, absolutely, Darren. I mean, some of this is just basic stuff as we go into educational programs with growers. But I mean, before the break, both the individuals mentioned soil testing, and that's the same way for us here at the Mosaic Company. I mean, soil testing is really that cornerstone of your fertility program. And also always like to point out to guys, it's important to have a balance. There's a lot of synergies between nitrogen and potassium, and obviously the nitrogen to sulfur ratios as you start looking at protein content within wheat. So it's important to have a balance, when you look at those soil test results. So we always try to coach people to, make sure you have a phosphorus value that it doesn't matter if you're talking hard red winter wheat or soft spring wheat. We like to see about a 20 to 30 part per million on a Bray 1 test. And on K, we like to see 125 to 150. But of course, we always suggest to check with a local university, local extension specialist, or their agronomist to fine tune some of those recs. And also, people. I think the first presenter mentioned split application. I really think that's key as the industry, as all of us encounter more environmental concerns, especially as it relates to nitrate and groundwater. I think over time we've seen nitrogen recs decrease, but we've become more efficient, with our nitrogen use efficiency in these cereal grains like wheat. So it's important to have these split applications, and of course, as mentioned earlier, those later applications give you more of a protein boost. I might also mention it's basic information, but if we're putting down nitrogen and potassium or a P and K type product through our air seeder at planting time, of course you always have to pay attention to your salt index there, but it's a great idea. I know there's been some research in the northern plains, Dakotas and Montana, that have shown that banding and oil with seed can give us a 10% yield boost over a typical broadcast. So those are some of the things we like to point out to people.
Yeah, I agree with you, Curt, on a lot of those points. When we think about that balance, that's a concept for a number of farmers that I talk to every year, that they're like, what's this deal with this balance issue? And
Right.
I think it gets to you can raise big yields, but are you tired of your wheat flopping over? Or are you tired of being disappointed and not figuring out what's going on? Because we see this a lot. I mean, for me in our area, I see potassium as the one that guys are just short on. When you think about how much that stover needs, I just question why we aren't getting more potassium out of the soil. Do you have a theory on that?
No, it's actually an interesting discussion that's taking place in the industry right now across a lot of your university professors. There's kind of a new team, or there's a new effort going into a better understanding of potassium and potassium nutrition, not only with wheat but across all crops. We've got a long history of calibration curves for potassium with our soil tests in our labs. But as you mentioned, I mean, I've got a small personal farm in eastern Colorado. We grow hard red winter wheat. We have very high potassium values, but yet I have noticed recently that I can see a potassium response. So there's definitely some potassium that is bound up in our clay layers that we are not accessing with some of our fibrous root structure. So, there's definitely some additional research, and I think over the next 5 to 10 years, we will see a shift in some of our potassium soil test numbers and how soil testing takes place for that nutrient. So,
yeah, that's good info, Curt. And we've actually got a university professor here coming up right after you. I guess any last comments here before we let you run?
No, I think Lee mentioned it earlier. If you have a tissue sampling in your management practice, just make sure you follow the guidelines from the university or the lab so that you're, sampling the right plant part, typically a flag leaf, and using their calibration curve or a data set to check against. If you just are randomly pulling a tissue sample and just trying to take a value, that's pretty limited information you can take from that.
You bet. I agree. Thanks a lot, Curt. Really appreciate all the info today. Thanks for joining us.
You bet. Thanks, Darren.